In the future, one of the most crucial abilities for leaders won't be strategy building. It'll be emotional intelligence, which is the ability to handle intense emotions without losing control. I'm Doug Noll. I'm a former trial lawyer and now a professional peacemaker. 22 years into my legal career, and I realized that winning arguments doesn't create peace or build trust. So I studied neuropsychology and conflict resolution. Eventually, I ended up teaching these skills in prison. And that's when I perfected the skill of affect labeling, a technique that stops any argument in about 90 seconds. And no, this isn't the usual technique that asks you to stay calm or go out and do some deep breathing or do box breathing or anything like that. It's a neurologically precise way of listening that stops any argument within 90 seconds. So if people in prison can master this and stop fights and arguments by not using fists and knives, you can definitely use it to handle the conflicts in your team. Let me show you how. What most emotional intelligence training fails to teach you is how to manage your own emotions and to manage and regulate the emotions of other people. You're told to calm down, to be calm, to take deep breaths, but none of that really works in the heat of the moment. That's emotional management, not emotional intelligence. True emotional intelligence for leaders is about precision, reading the specific emotion in someone else and naming it precisely. Are you upset? Doesn't de-escalate anything, but saying something like, you feel disrespected, and you're worried nobody sees how hard you're working, stops everything. The other problem is that most leaders have a pretty limited emotional vocabulary, maybe limited to being angry and upset. But frustrated is not the same as disrespected. Overwhelmed is not the same as being afraid. Disappointed is not the same as being abandoned. Each of these emotions points to a different underlying need. Name the wrong one and nothing happens. Name the right one and the conversation shifts immediately. All these traditional approaches that you've been taught around strong emotions don't work. For example, saying stay calm is about you, not them. I statements center your experience, which triggers even more defensiveness than the other person. Active listening asks the other person to explain more when neurophysiologically that's impossible for them to do. And none of these create the neurological shift that actually ends the conflict. By the way, if you want to practice this, I built a free community called the De-escalate Academy. You can go into the academy and train with other leaders through live sessions, Q&As, online courses, and case studies. The link to the academy is in the description. Before I get back to this, describe a situation in the comments below where you felt less powerful as a leader, and I'll tell you exactly what you could have done in that situation. As you learn how to name the feelings of other people with precision, it helps to know that there are 7 basic layers. The layers are anger, disrespect, fear, disgust, shame, sadness, and abandonment. And each of these layers have subcategories of emotions. So for example, in anger, you'll have frustration, irritation, annoyance, and rage. You'll have fear, worry, anxiety, overwhelm, and panic. With disrespect, you might have dismissal, invisible, undervalued, ignored, unappreciated, unsupported, not heard, being invisible. For disgust, contempt, revulsion, you're appalled, nauseated, offended. Embarrassment, shame, guilt, humiliation. Sadness, disappointment, grief, hopelessness, misery, depressed, upset. And abandonment, which is the basis of almost all emotion. Feeling abandoned, rejected, betrayed, unloved, unlovable, left out, excluded, irrelevant, and forgotten. Every human conflict maps onto at least one of these layers, and usually 2 or 3 at the same time. So when a team member explodes in a meeting, they're in one of these states. When someone shuts down or goes cold, they're in one of these states. And your job as a leader is to manage these nervous systems by identifying and naming the emotions that your people are experiencing right now. So you start with the presenting emotion. What's the most visible in the moment? Usually it's going to be anger or frustration. Work through the layers. What else presents itself? And just slowly, over a period of 1 minute to 2 minutes, as you work through the layers, you'll slowly see the calming effect. It's always better to overlabel than underlabel. And a couple of quick tips. Don't ever ask questions. Don't ever use an I statement. Don't use passive voice. Note that saying something like, you're frustrated and you feel your contributions aren't being taken seriously is going to land better than just, you're frustrated. The more layers you name, the more completely the other person feels seen, and the faster they'll calm down. So watch for the body's yes. You're going to see a nodding of the head. You're going to see the shoulders drop, sigh of relief, and usually there'll be some kind of verbal response like yeah or exactly before they thought about it. Those unconscious confirmations tell you that the emotional charge in their brain is dissipating. Another thing to think about is your own emotional state. If you walk into a meeting agitated or nervous or upset, almost instantly it's going to be spread to other team members because your emotional state is neurologically contagious. When you're anxious, your team operates in threat mode, performance drops, and trust erodes. When you're grounded and calm, the nervous systems around you settle. And it's not metaphor, it's measurable. Research shows that teams led by emotionally precise leaders outperform others by over 21%, and the same research links it to 35% lower turnover rates. So what changes when you master this stuff? Conflicts that used to linger on for weeks get resolved in one conversation. Team members stop avoiding difficult conversations because they know they'll feel heard, and performance conversations stop triggering defensiveness. People give out more effort, not because they're incentivized, but because they feel psychologically safe. And the beauty of it is, this skill can be built with deliberate practice, not in months, not in years, but literally in weeks. Brain scans show the neural pathways strengthen with repetition. What feels awkward becomes automatic, and usually this only takes a few weeks of consistent practice. By the way, if you want the full breakdown of this, I put together a complete masterclass on how to stop any fight in 90 seconds. It's completely free. Check out the description for the link. So I want to tell you a story about how I perfected this and field tested over 10 years working in maximum security prisons. In 2009, a woman serving a life sentence without possibility of parole wrote letters asking if she and other lifers in this women's prison could be trained as peacemakers and mediators to stop prison violence. One of the letters arrived in the mailbox of my colleague and friend Laurel Coffer, and she called me, read the letter, and said, "What do you think?" 8 months later, there we were, standing in front of 15 women in the largest, most violent women's prison in the world. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, all of them serving long sentences, lifers, life without possibility of parole, and I could see it on their faces. Anger, skepticism, cynicism, doubt, and a little bit of curiosity. So we started teaching them how to become peacemakers and mediators, and the first skill we taught them was how to name emotions. At first I didn't think we were making any progress, but then Sarah told us her story. I've been in prison for 18 years. I'm serving 25 to life for a fatal DUI, and I killed a family of 4 as an alcoholic drunk driver. When I came to prison, I had to give up my 3-year-old son to my sister to raise. I've written him every single week for 18 years, and he's never called, he's never written back, he's never visited. Last week, I decided to write a different kind of letter, and I thought about all the emotions he must be feeling, and I went through all the layers that you've taught us. Anger, frustration, humiliation, sadness, abandonment, feeling unloved and unlovable. This week, in fact today, for the first time in 18 years, I received a letter back from him. And at the bottom of the letter he said, "Mom, I love you. I'm bringing my girlfriend. I'll come visit you in 3 weeks." And I watched Sarah. Her hand was shaking as she held the letter, and I could see where tears had made the ink run. And her thumb was over the word love, like she couldn't believe it was real and didn't want to let it go. That's when it really hit me. We weren't just training these women to be peacemakers and mediators. We were training them how to restore their humanity. Well, the success in that prison led us into men's prisons. And pretty soon we were operating in California's darkest institutions, training men coming out of gangs how to become peacemakers and mediators. In prison after prison after prison, we saw the same stories and the same results. Fights and arguments were being resolved by naming emotions, not with fists and knives. If some of the most violent men I've ever worked with can listen somebody else into existence by naming their feelings, if women serving life sentences without possibility of parole can do the same, if a woman who lost contact with her son for 18 years can reestablish her relationship with him, what could this do for you on your team, in your boardroom, on your executive team, with your customers, with your clients? It's just simply learning how to listen another person into existence by naming what they feel. Imagine never having another fight or argument again, ever spiral out of control. That's what happens when you master these skills. Those people I taught in prison, no emotional vocabulary, no formal education in communication, and every incentive to maintain their violent patterns of behavior. They still learned it within weeks. If it works in a maximum security prison, it's going to work in your team meeting, in your one-on-ones, in your negotiations. Because every conflict at its core is about one thing: being seen, heard, and understood. When you name with precision what somebody is feeling, the fight ends. Look, here's what I believe. If more leaders mastered this skill, we'd have better workplaces, stronger teams, and less turnover. And that's exactly what I want. I teach this to leaders who want to lead with calm, confidence, and clarity. So if you want to master this skill and never have another fight or argument again, check the link in the description. Book a call with me. Let's talk this over and work together to make you the leader everyone would love working with. That's it. I'll see you in the next video.